We're going to continue reading page 117 to 119. So, a disruptive pharaoh. We learned in the last chapter how important the many gods were to the Egyptian people. That's a lesson that at least one of the pharaohs did not seem to learn. During the mid 1300s BC, Amenhotep became one of the most disruptive rulers Egypt had ever seen. He got that reputation not by destroying buildings, by which he did, nor by attacking his enemies, which he did as well, but by dismantling a religion. Amenhotep outlawed worship of the many gods of ancient Egypt. He did not end the practice of religion. Instead, Amenhotep established a new religion, one that replaced the old gods with one new all-powerful sun god. A radiating sun disk represented this single god called Aten. Aten alone was to be worshipped. Amenhotep declared there is none other than he. To make his point, the new pharaoh decided to change his own name. He had been named after his father, Amenhotep III, whose name meant Amen, is pleased. Amen was one of the most important gods of ancient Egypt. The new pharaoh didn't want a name that recalled an old god, so he changed his name to Akhenaten, or the spirit of Aten. Akhenaten's revolution in religion shook the land to its sandy foundations. The pharaoh's subjects were horrified at the changes. The priests of the old gods watched their power and prestige vanish. Akhenaten forced the people to worship a god they knew little about. Gone was Re, the old god of the sun, provider of bountiful harvests. Gone was Thoth, the god of knowledge and wisdom. Banished too were the much-loved Osiris, his sister Isis, and their son, the falcon-headed Horus, god of the sky. In their place was Aten, the disk of the sun. There was a god that seemed to have no personality and no history among the Egyptian people. Still, Pharaoh would tolerate no resistance. Akhenaten wanted to wipe out the memory of the old gods of Egypt. He ordered squads of workers to use hammers and chisels to chip the gods' names off walls. They defaced the images of the gods that had adorned old temples. Akhenaten then set about building a new capital, a place devoted to his god, about 250 miles downriver from the old capital of Thebes. There he could worship Aten in new temples without roofs, sacred buildings open to the life-giving rays of the sun. A king restores the gods. As Akhenaten worked his will, one young member of the royal family watched it all. Some say he was Akhenaten's son. Others say he was the pharaoh's youngest brother. Few noticed the boy, who seemed to occupy himself with childish pursuits. His shiny silver trumpet, his models of ships and animals. But the boy saw everything. We do not know exactly what the child Tutankhaten was thinking, but priests at the time wondered if the old Egyptian gods were angry with their people. Without the help of the old gods, would Egypt be ruined? Later records show Egyptians denouncing Akhenaten as a scoundrel, rebel, and criminal. When Akhenaten died 17 years after he came to power, young Tutankhaten became king. This 9-year-old ruler and his eager advisors wasted little time returning Egypt to its traditional deities. Just as Akhenaten had removed images of the old gods, so the young king, guided by priests, got rid of all images of Akhenaten. Workers removed depictions of the old pharaoh from their monuments. The capital he had built was left to ruin, its temples and palace swallowed by the desert sands. The Egyptians moved their capital back to Thebes. That took care of the past, but Egyptians had their future to worry about. When the new boy king ascended to the throne of Egypt, he immediately set about restoring the traditional gods of Egypt. He made the future clear by changing his name. The name he chose acknowledged the old god, Amen. He called himself Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun ruled for just about 10 years. In addition to encouraging worship of the old gods, he restored defaced sandstone temples to their former glory. He used his short reign to build temples to the traditional deities such as Amen, Re, and Osiris. King Tut, as we have come to know the young pharaoh, returned Egypt to its familiar path. His death at around age 18 remains a mystery. Some people believe that he died during a hunting accident. Some say he was murdered. We may never know. Whatever the reason, Tut was buried in a small tomb in the Valley of the Kings, the final resting place of pharaohs who had gone before him. The young king was largely forgotten. He lay for more than 3 millennia in the Valley of the Kings until the year 1922. That was when a British archaeologist named Howard Carter found the boy king's burial place. It was one of the greatest archaeological finds of all time. For the first time, an archaeologist unearthed a royal Egyptian tomb in excellent condition. At the end of this chapter, you can read the story of this amazing discovery. And you can see at the top of the page, there's a statue of the boy king. And then here is Howard Carter and his assistants opening King Tut's tomb. And we'll stop the reading. That's page 117 to 119.